Is your strategy on brand? Is your brand on strategy? Find out today on Good Morning Marketers. Hi, I'm Craig Israel, Creative Director at ThunderTech. Today we're talking about multiple brands, specifically the strategy to manage multiple brands under one roof. Let's start with the definition. Brand architecture refers to all the brands within an organization and how they relate to one another. For example, let's take PepsiCo. Under their portfolio of brands, Pepsi and Mountain Dew are equal standalone brands, but each has its own sub-brands like Cherry Pepsi and Mountain Dew Solar Flare. Yeah, that's a real flavor. I don't know, like punch? In general, when we talk about brand architecture, there are two key methods of organization: a branded house and a house of brands. A branded house is where there's a primary brand that is applied to everything that a company makes or sells. For example, FedEx is a branded house. Everything they sell is under the FedEx brand. A house of brands, on the other hand, is where each individual brand has more equity in the marketplace than the parent brand. One example is Nestle. You probably recognize them for candy, but they also have dozens of other brands, some of which have their own sub-brands. If you are a house of brands or a branded house of any size, you need a brand strategy to keep everything organized. Brand strategy is simply your plan for developing your brand or brands over the long term. Like any strategic plan, you need to outline the goals, tactics, and KPIs you're going to track while moving the brand forward. And of course, a good brand strategy will resonate with your customers by connecting with their needs, emotions, their shopping behaviors, and taking into account the competitive ecosystem. Now, with brand architecture and brand strategy defined, let's talk about multi-brand management. This is where things can get a little tricky. Companies with multiple brands selling into the same category need to be mindful of how customers perceive their brands and how those brands fit into shoppers' lives. Procter & Gamble is a master at multi-brand management. They have hundreds of brands spanning dozens of categories, but each is carefully positioned to not cannibalize the others. For example, Tide is their flagship laundry detergent brand and one of the more expensive detergents on the shelf. But they also sell Era laundry detergent, a low-cost brand. These two products, while pretty much doing the same thing, are targeted to two very different shopper segments and each enjoy strong sales with their target audiences. So, if you're in the position of having multiple brands in the same category, a successful multi-brand management strategy begins with asking a couple questions. What is your target audience for each brand? What makes them unique? What factors motivate them? What's most important to them? What features and benefits are key to each brand? What attributes are the most important to your audience? What is the perception of each brand? How do your shoppers really feel about your brand, and how can you support that perception? And finally, what are your goals for each brand? Be realistic with your expectations and aspirations for your brands. Craft a plan and, if need be, incrementally advance your brand to the place you want. And of course, if you need assistance with figuring out your brand architecture or developing your multi-brand management strategy, ThunderTech would be glad to help. Give us a call or visit us online at thundertech.com. Thanks for watching.